how's it going? Welcome back to another edition of our RCS Live. As always, I am Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering over here at RCS. And today we're going to talk about Zetta's multi-track editor. Had a couple of requests from these the past couple of weeks. So I thought, why not showcase our phenomenal multi-track editor built in to Zetta. Of course, get the housekeeping out of the way. Don't forget Zetta 5.21.1 beta right now. That's that really, really cool version. I know a couple weeks ago we covered the Zetta to Go, the new voice track and segue editor marks, right? The volume points, the trim in, the trim out. Oh, we're so excited for this. A lot of users saw that video from 2 weeks ago. Reached out to RCS support, and we put them in touch with the beta program, and they're testing it, and they're loving it. If you want to also be part of that beta program, you can reach out to RCS sales. You can reach out to support or me or whoever you want to reach out to, and we'll be taking care of you there too. So, and by the way, that full release is sometime in early June, just so you know. That's Zetta 5.21.1. As always, FTS, Field Technician Services installs are going as normal. Don't forget to check your backups. And remember, if you want to be featured in our Feature Friday, you can reach out to us. We'll help you out there too. So some really, really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. So let's dive right into it. As always, I'm going to move my chat over here. Thank you, V, for checking in. I do have our chat open here. So we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, right? Anything else? Twitter Live or something like that. I think we're forgetting. But yeah, so let me know what we can do to help out. I can answer your questions here, the multi-track editor, and so much more. As always, we have our archive over at rcsworks.com/rcs-live. So if you miss any of these videos, you want to go back and check that out, you can go there by going to RCS-live. So let's dive right into it, the multi-track editor. Now, me personally, when I was a PD and I was on the air, you know, I would always have that emergency production I have to do, right? And so the idea was I had to immediately go run somewhere and do a quick piece of production and then run back to the studio for a break. And it's just, there's a better way of doing it. There's just a better, more efficient way of doing it. So we have built in, this is included inside of Zetta, we have Zetta's multi-track editor. Now, I should point out that while we're talking all about this, there's the multi-track editor, and then there's the quick record module, which is essentially, by the way, the single track editor. If you'll notice, side by side, these are identical, and that's because they are identical. It's just a single versus a multi-track editor. And I should point out, by the way, this is a true multi-track editor, which is really, really cool and scalable, that is included inside of Zetta. I can't express that enough. So if you have any questions regarding this, let me know. I got my chat open here. And so we're going to focus more on the multi-track editor, but obviously just know you can do this with a single track editor as well. It's why you see over here some options. If I want to edit the audio, I can do that with essentially the single or the multi-track. And again, the single track is also known as the quick record module as well. So this is my multi-track editor. I think what I'll do is give you some real life examples of how this works, right? That's kind of the idea. So this is perfect, you know, for doing intermediate production, right? I'll just take these two elements over here, and then from there, I'll kind of make this nice and big for right now so we can see everything, right? So this is the multi-track editor. I have my 3 tracks here. If you want to see more tracks, just right click on here and look, we can add tracks. We can remove tracks as well. If you're doing record skips, and I always joke and doing flange and all of those crazy effects, yeah, guess what? You might want to have like Pro Tools or Adobe Audition. I totally get that. I understand. That's the purpose of that software. But if we're doing intermediate Adobe Audition work here, you can do this from your single seat in the studio or the production room. And of course, if you have, let's say, multiple users, multiple studios, you want to have all of those Adobe licenses. You can utilize your Zetta multi-track editor, and it's phenomenal. I just absolutely love working in this window here. So let's talk a little bit about what we're looking at, right? So just very briefly, we have some options here. Just so you know, we can always save assets inside of Zetta. We can save assets outside of Zetta. We can also save this as a project. So think about When concerts are coming back, we have that weekly concert calendar, the community calendar. You have that donut, right? The intro, the music bed, the outro. You chime in your vocals and say, this week we're going to be at location X, Y, and Z. Well, you can do that with a project and say that with inside of Zetta's multi-track editor. We had one user ask us, can I have that as kind of a global enterprise project? And when you'll notice, when you save the project as, we choose where it wants to go, right? It's a traditional save as with Windows Explorer. You put it where you want to go and you can save it. So the idea there is if you have a centralized location, absolutely. Why wouldn't you have multiple users accessing the same exact project? Also note, you can always import audio outside of the Zetta environment into the Zetta multi-track editor. There's some options for mix downs as well. If you're a big mix down person to tracks, you can see or note by track, project, or file. That file is outside of the Zetta environment, just so you know. Then we have some options here for history, audio list, gain level, clip list, and the side panel. We'll talk about that just a little bit as well. Anthony was asking, great question, Anthony. He was saying, is there a sidecar XML when you save as? This was actually just came up the other day with a client of ours. I'm going to say not in the sense that you're probably thinking about, right? So we do have, of course, the now playing export. We have the publish feature. The publish feature, if I go to the system, the publish feature is an additional add-on, just so you know. And we have the publish here. And you can see there's an output XML with the publish. So similar behavior, but we had a client that I'm going to assume here, Anthony, you're asking the same thing they're asking, and that true sidecar XML, not just yet, just so you know there. So I have my elements here. Everything, just like throughout other Zetta, is drag and drop, right? I left click, dragged it over, boom, there we go. I can take this track, move it up, move it down, left, right. As you can see, I can always add additional tracks by right-clicking and adding the track right there. Now, if I'm going to do some unique voice tracking or anything there, I can essentially go and have, there's a couple ways to record here. There's an arm track and a single record. So let's just use the example first of we got two 30s, want to piggyback them together, right? The idea there is we got a client that has 130 and 130. We got to save them as 160 and then put it back inside the Zetta environment. Drag and drop in here, or again, the import audio up here. I have the two 30s, move them left, right, and I can essentially save the asset as, boom, we're good to go. Easy stuff. Take those same two 30s. I got to do a 10-second tag, right? I click on here. Hey, Anthony, yes, I do see your oh, sorry, I had this record there. There we go. Hey, Anthony, yes, I saw your question. I'm going to answer it in about a couple seconds here in 3, 2, 1, right? Okay, so there's that. And notice, by the way, when I clicked here, this was the arm track. This arm track represents this record down here. And that's because we could have multiple tracks recording, which I'll show you in just a second. But in regards to this one particular element, right, I'm going to zoom in using my wheel on my mouse, right? And you'll notice, by the way, it goes wherever your cursor is. See that? So keep your cursor and zoom in. A lot of functionality there. So what I can do is I can essentially start using my trim ins. I can start using my trim outs over here. Simple, right? Very, very simple. I can also right click on here and do a couple things. You can see there's crossfade ins, crossfade outs if you wanted to. I can move that in. There's also an edit undo option, which, by the way, brings us to a great first point, which is we do have the history here. Look at that. Initiate the slate, added audio, added the track, item moved, trim out. I can always go back and edit my changes. Now, obviously, just be aware, just like traditional audio editors, if I go back in history and move forward, so again, I'll just right-click here and insert a volume point, you'll see that I lose the crossfade. That's intentional. That's just because you told it to go back, ignore those changes, and you moved forward. So we're going to ignore those changes. And by the way, right-click, insert volume point wherever your cursor is. So I'm going to go up here and insert volume point, and down here, insert volume point. So if you're a ride the fader guy or gal, I can do that just where my cursor is. Ride the fader just like this, right? So, by the way, Anthony, I want to address your question here. Anthony was saying we want to pay royalties for background music. Totally get that. There is better ways of doing that inside of our software, just so you know. The XML, I totally get that. There's some unique ways of doing it. I would definitely reach out to your local support person for some ideas there. I say that because there's geographic reasons. I know I was talking with somebody last week from Australia. I know that Canada has their CanCon they have to do as well. So it really depends on what you have to report and how. That's the idea there. So a lot of users will find some type of additional, they'll do either I won't dive too far into that, but there's multiple ways you can achieve the same exact result in there, Anthony, just so you know. And again, just before I forget here, you can control these faders here, just so you can see like this. So you can see I can control the faders if I wanted to. There's my 10-second tag. So yes, you can do a lot of really cool, quick production here, right? Inside the Zetta multi-track editor. If you guys got more questions, keep them coming. I love it. One of the great things you can do too is notice, by the way, over here, this is the traditional multi-track editor session. I have a solo track. I have a mute track. I have an arm track. I have a record track. I also have drop downs for some of my multiple input sources. So what you can do, right? I'm going to click on my little old record here, hit delete, remove that guy. I can go back here and I can essentially say, what if I arm this one and I arm this one and I hit record down here? And you'll notice that they're both the same exact input. So they're not going to make any changes right now, right? They're just my analog USB mic that I have here, right? So there's channel 1, there's channel 2. Great, sounds good. What if this was a different input? Okay, go to walk with me here for a second, right? What if this input was my mic 1 and this input was, I don't know, a phone pop? That could be, in theory, a Vox Pro for free on the fly if you wanted to do that, right? What if this input was your local news channel and you could essentially do something like you could record off the feed, essentially. It could be your governor talking about COVID for it could be a press conference for an hour. If you're a news talk station, you can take that exact recording, put it in your multi-track editor. You can save it as a project, save it as an asset inside the Zetta environment, and you can start marking it up if you wanted to. Or if you had, let's say, a studio with 6 different voices, you could have, in theory, 6 different inputs. You would essentially arm each one of these tracks. And when you hit record, it will record to all 4 of these tracks that I have defined in here, right? Very, very flexible and very scalable, just like the rest of Zetta as well. So one of these cool things to do, let's just say, pretend you have a 60-minute file. You're a news talk format, right? We did kind of the piggyback 30s. We did the 10-second tags. Now we have a 60-minute news talk thing that we have to essentially isolate certain things, right? Well, how about we utilize over here these clips, okay? So what we can do is we'll pretend here this is just one consistent file. And what I can do is I can start isolating clips, something like this, right? It's that orange highlight, and there's a little X here on the top. It's important to note. See that? Now, this serves a very important purpose. Look down here. I know it's a little small because you're probably looking at your screen over here, but obviously I have low resolution on mine. So what you can do is notice the in, 19.5 seconds, the out, 35.3 seconds, and the time, 15.8 seconds, right? So what you can do is you can essentially isolate certain elements here, and it's really cool. Check this out. I'm going to highlight this. This could be the governor saying, wear your masks, right? I can right click on this. And aside from my normal traditional little kind of elements here, I can add a clip. See it over here in that clip list right here? And there's my clip. I hover over it. I can see my clip. This is another one right here. I'll right click and I'll do add a clip. And I'll go over here and I'll right click and I'll add a clip. So I have 3 clips over here, right? Right, Shante? That makes sense? And so what I can do now is I have these 3 clips. And I can say this is COVID, and I can say this is mask, and I can say maybe this is, I don't know, cut 102, right? You're going to see this makes sense in a couple seconds here. So once I have that saved, right, I'm going to go over here now. I'm going to pull up one of my modules. I'm going to bring up my hotkey module over here. I'm going to pick my bank and pick my station. Boom. There here. And you'll notice here, I'm going to cancel that, clear that key right there. What I can do is I can take one of these clips now, drag it over to a hotkey, and boom, Just like that, I have a COVID quick record RCS hot IC with a timestamp on it. Right, Anthony? I know you weren't talking about this or something else earlier, but I still like to kind of showcase there. Exactly. Really cool stuff, right? I can essentially do a quick record based on a clip list that I have over here. And in case you're wondering, just so you know, I can still highlight this, right? And this takes the entire highlight. Left click, drag over, boom. I don't even need the clips I don't want to. It can create a quick record right there on the fly if I wanted to. That naming structure, what's the deal with that naming structure? Config, system, go to voice track and quick record. There is your naming structure right there. Do you need to have all these clips very quickly or for a long period of time? No, you don't, right, Rebecca? There's no need to have that. So what we can do here is we can define keep after creation for or a warning for duration. That's also in there too. So it's important to note. By the way, since we're here in the system, I'm going to close this hotkey for right now. I don't want to have too many screens here for you. I want to show you a really cool thing here that we don't really normally talk about, which is command mappings. What I like to do for my Zetta multi-track editor is I like to kind of mimic some of my traditional audio editing functionality. For me in particular, I love using just splits, the splits function. You can see these are some of the other kind of, keyboard mappings, the shortcuts, if you will, that I have in here. But down here below, look at this. Global Control T, similar to Adobe, is a multi-track command split. So what I can do here, I can go right here, right? I can do Control T, and look at that. It's going to split my recording. So I'm fully aware. We have new users learning new software. Some of us radio people, when we're stuck in our ways, as literally Nate says, I mimic the keyboard mappings for what I'm used to in other pieces of software. We're stuck in our ways. I totally get that. I respect that. So a lot of times you want to help your staff out and replicate certain things. That's a great example of you can really utilize some shortcuts here and put it here in the system, command mappings, and there's a keyboard shortcut. And you might ask yourself, hey, Nate, what can I do with the multi-track editor, options? If I go in here and type MUL for the multi-track, you can see there's a whole bunch of options here, right? Ooh, that's a lot of reading, right? Well, in that case, if only there was, I don't know, I'm going to click in my multi-track editor. What if there was F1 dynamic help, right? I say this, preach this incredibly. You should totally be utilizing the Zetta F1 dynamic help. It behaves the same way in G Selector, no matter where you are inside the software, as long as you're clicking like you're working within that window, hit F1, boom, it's dynamic, right? And I want to show you a couple things here. I'll scroll down here, and you'll see, by the way, these are the default keyboard mappings already perfectly in here. Shout out to Teresa, by the way, who does a phenomenal job with our help files. And if you keep going down here, you'll see multi-track commands. These are the commands that we're talking about over here, right? When I drop this down, when I jump back to my dynamic help, you can see it gives you a description and a comment of what this does. So you can see that I think there's a split, or you know what I like to do personally, Control F. That gives you the find. I do a split like this, and you can see down here there's a split. I'll just do a next. And there's right there, multi-track command split. This option will split everything in there. And so that's literally what I do. I just go over here to my command mappings, and you'll see multi, and then you'll see there'll be a split somewhere in here. Snap, it's in here. Oh, I have to go up, that's why. You take my word for it, it's there. I know, there's so many options here. I'm not going to waste my time looking for them. And by the way, close this. I'm not going to save my changes, just so you know. So really cool things you can do in the multi-track editor, right? So look at your input sources, ARM tracks from multiple input sources. From there, this orange highlight, I can create clips and quick records from this element. I can move things around. I can do tags, lots of production in here. Ooh, by the way, I'm going to zoom out here and right click. This is just my mouse just zooming out. I can also right click on here, Vst Plug-Ins. If you want to do a plugin, we can do that too. This is just some generic one I found online. If you have any plugins that are free or you pay for, you can do that at your leisure. By the way, pro tip, if you want to enable your VST plugins, here you go, Anthony. This is for you. This is your file path. Program data, RCS, MTE VST plugins. When this folder is created, when you drop an EXE or a DLL into this window, that allows Zetta to see it. Once you can see it, you can essentially go and you restart Zetta, and boom, it should see those files over there too. And by the way, if you're just curious, again, F1 dynamic help. I think it's again Control F VST. You can see there's a plugins are right there, and you'll notice, by the way, there is that file path for you, right? All I did there, just so you know, is Control F. That brings up the find. I am a huge proponent, as you know, of work smarter, not harder. So the find is a great way of doing it. Why am I going through to looking through here when I can just go and boom and just say, there you go. F, find the thing I'm looking for, and we're great, right? Got some questions here. Let me see. Information changes. So Anthony was asking this: can the locators and the MTE trigger, I think it's RDS, I'm assuming, information changes? So don't forget, the information, the RDS feed is based on the now playing export or the full reconciliation file, depending on how you have that configured. Traditionally, it's the now playing export. By definition, anything that's on the air gets sent to the now playing export. And just to review here, config, system, and then live metadata. I should say pre-520, it's going to be the now playing export. Starting in 520, we renamed it to live metadata because it serves multiple purposes. So obviously be aware we have this, the Zetta Lite, the Zetta Full that's here. That's the now playing export. We utilize the protocols for the TCP, UDP, serial HTTP, all of that good stuff in there. This is what we're talking about, Anthony. So we're saying about the RDS, what is playing on the air. This is kind of talking about the on-air sequencer. The multi-track editor is more of behind the scenes. You're working on something. So what you could do, Anthony, and I'm going to quickly just minimize that. I'll pull up this element over here. What you're kind of talking about is you build it in the MTE. You take that huge file, you build it in the multi-track editor, you save it within Zetta, you open up the actual element itself, go to your cue points down here, hit this little plus, right? And we have an option here for a custom mark. Once you have that custom mark, you'll notice here there is a live metadata send. There are some options here on when you're playing this, right? Current station, manual. We can do a title. If I expand this here, there's a title, artist, and that traditional 1, 2, 3 window. You can define the artist inside there. Once you have the cue point in that file at that desired location, that's when you say, I'm playing this. Boom, there's my now playing export. We're dancing around the RDS, of course, but that is some traditional ways that stations do that. Again, if you're looking for how to have multiple elements and document it for recording purposes or for reporting purposes, definitely reach out to your local RCS support agent because, as I said, depending on where you are, what area, what continent, everybody has a little bit slightly different way. For example, here in the States, we have sound exchange reporting for streaming. That requires an ISKI code or an album and a label. A lot of users don't have that metadata inside their Zetta system, so they find alternatives to add that in there. So hopefully that answers your question, Anthony. But yes, super cool stuff. A lot of flexibility. Remember, this is all about flexibility and customizable. We don't want to restrict you in Zetta. It's a very, very powerful piece of software. Let's see here. Joe was asking, can you assign simple effects like compression, reverb, echo to tracks? Remember, we don't have that built in per se, but we have the VST plugins. So you would highlight this, go to your plugin, and then that would be it. So what I would probably say is you would add the plugin, have probably a preset for those things, highlight everything when you're done, fire it, and then you're good to go. I'm trying to think if there is a plug-in automatic. I don't think there is. If it is, it might be one of those really, really super advanced ones. Again, reach out to support and check and see. Off the top of my head, when I use VSTs for compression and normalization, well, I should say normalization's done on playout, but those unique ones, right? Those unique type of compression EQs, those are usually VST plugins. And that does it there too. So hopefully that answers your question over there, Joe. Thanks for checking in, by the way. Appreciate it. Rebecca, any questions at all? Just curious if you have any questions, let me know. Let's see here, going through my list. So we did the payback in 30 with 10 seconds. We did the command mappings, the help files. Speaking of clips, by the way, going back to that news talk example, what you can do is go to the modules, the stacks modules. And I personally like using stacks for news talks. It's up to you how you want to do it. I mean, obviously stacks are the button bar. It's really tomato. It's based on your workflow. I have a little thing here that's like Nate's Hour Show too. So in this example, we're pretending that essentially I'm a producer preparing my show for a live, 2-hour news talk show, right? We have hour 1, we have hour 2. You've always heard those guys going, let's play, cut 1002 or whatever it is, right? So utilizing the stacks module, what I can do is in the production studio, in the multi-track editor, isolate that 60-minute, governor's press conference about COVID, isolate the clips that you want, put it into the clip list itself, give those clip lists a name, then I can go and drag this into my 3 elements here, right? And then once I drag them in, I then have full control over this, right? So you'll notice here I have some clip 1, clip 2, clip 3, clip 4, but then I have COVID mask 1002. So what I could do as a producer is once I have this queued up, I can dock this in my screen. Notice, by the way, the chain type for the stop and play. Yes, I know my resolution is very small. It's how I like it. And so what I can do here is I can say, well, play this clip, then stop. Play this clip, then stop. Or if I have multiple ones, I can say play this clip, segue into this one, into this one, into this one. But notice, by the way, the individual plays and the overall play nexts. So what you can do here is essentially say, if I'm the on-air talent, hey, Anthony, go ahead and play me the mask clip. Boom. Hit that individual play. There we go. We're good to go, right? And maybe usually most of these, if you're doing individual clips, you want to use stop chains for all of these because you don't want anything else to play on there, right? And of course, by the way, audition-wise, these can feed different ways. And speaking of Anthony, if this is in the on-air and this is an asset that is dictated to be part of the now playing export, if you're on the air and this is allowed to be part of the now playing export and you fire it from here, it's going to fire and be included as part of that reconciliation file too. Can the VSTs be used on record? Yes, it's a loaded question. You can see here, Anthony, that's a recording that I did, right? I recorded this in my elements. So what I can do here is I can click on this, highlight or whatever, go to my plugin, and then fire it from there. What you're referring to is usually into the system. So for example, this guy right here, I have a DBX mic processor. So everything you hear is processed going into the Windows environment. I have my mic, goes to my processor goes into USB interface goes into my Windows environment. You can see right there. That's kind of what you're referring to, Anthony. And because that's going to do is it's before you get to it, right? That's the idea. So you want to do your processing, your EQ beforehand, right? Destructive processing. It could, yes. I mean, I'm a big believer, Anthony, that it's all, in my opinion, semantics and opinion. So like we have users who have MP2s and they save it as, wave files. Okay, absolutely. I am going to have a condensed wave sine wave there. It's clipped. It's not going to be my max sine wave. If I extend it, all I'm doing is taking that clipped sine wave and expanding it to that greater threshold. Right? I'm still not doing it. So I get what you're saying. In my opinion, I'm always that guy who thinks, I try to work ahead from the start and then get to the final product, right? Destructive processing. If I have a very poor recording first, there is nothing I can do about that recording to fix it because at the root of the sine wave, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. I mean, I have some audio editing background myself. But I mean, if you get really zoomed in on here, I mean, that's big sine waves. That's not the traditional individual sine waves. So yeah. There you go. So, all right. Any other questions here? I think we're going to wrap up here. I know we're in a little bit of delay, so I'll give you a chance to kind of text here. But yes, get last minute for your questions in here. So Anthony, Joe, Let's see here. Shantae, any other questions? Let me know. I'm here to answer them for you in regards to the multi-track editor. Go through my list over here. So again, the command mappings, if there's something you like, definitely utilize it. For me, I like Control T to split. That's what I like. Volume points, that's in there too, right? And nice. Yeah, we're talking about, yeah, nice, Anthony. We're talking some shop over here. I like it. Let's see here. So we did the piggyback, 10 seconds, the saving inside, outside. Oh, I might have forgotten to do this. I'll focus on this recording right here. From this drop down here, we also have the audio list. That's going to be a list you imported here on the right-hand side. There is a gain level. Speaking of processing over here, Anthony, this is a yellow line that you can enable where you can essentially expand or decrease, right? It's a quick little gain that's across the board. Obviously, if you don't want to cross the entire sine wave, Control T. Once I split it, you can see there. Now I have access to that individual one. All right. Something to, just quickly on the fly, adjust the volume points if you want to. But don't forget, during play out in Zetta, we will do normalization. So not as long as, but if you're working in the Zetta environment, if I add audio in here and I save it, I put it back in Zetta, know that during play out, we're going to still have the normalization value upon play out. And there is some options. If you do the publish feature, there is some normalization done there as well, right? Makes sense. Okay. Anthony's already talking about next week. I love it. Let's see here. The VSTs, tags, multi-track editor, 4 to 6. And again, this is your audio feeds. I can't express it enough. Think about out of the box for a second, right? Zetta in the multi-track editor will only record what you want. So if you tell it exactly what you want to record, if you identify that workflow, it will do so according for you. If you're saying take the phone, great, it's going to grab the phone. If you're going to say take mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, mic 4, mic 5, mic 6, yeah, do it up. Absolutely. Right click, add those tracks. Go to town, go crazy. We can totally do that if you want to do that as well. Right? So next week, Anthony, I can't remember. Next week's gonna be some G selector stuff. I have some ideas. I haven't narrowed it down just yet, but then I believe the week after we got some really, really cool stuff coming in the pipeline. I know that top secret here, we have Bill Weber, the kind of creator of Selector and G Selector. He is the G Selector product manager. He's going to be on to talk about some music scheduling stuff, which is going to be I'm personally really looking forward to that. That's going to be a great conversation with Bill Weber. Again, creator of G Selector and head of our G Selector product manager. We also have some stuff. Martin Blazik from Zetta might come in the pipeline as well. I'm having some. This is your teaser, Martin. This is your way of saying the people would like to talk to you. That's going to the pipeline as well. And of course, I'm just waiting for the proper time. We're going to showcase all of the Zetta 5.21.1 new features, including brand new skin colors. We have the Zetta to Go marks. We have the media importer tool. There's so much stuff coming down the pipeline in 5.21.1. We want to showcase that as well. So thank you, V. I appreciate it. Any other questions? Let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to give you kind of a 10-second warning here before I run off. I know there's a little bit of delay here. Any questions, as always, reach out to us. You can direct message us, email us live@rcsworks.com. Or you can also reach out to your local RCS supports. They're going to help you out incredibly with those too. Great question, Joe. Joe was asking over here, do clients have to pay extra for VST plugins? Disclaimer, we have nothing to do with VST plugins. That is all third party. So what we do is just like the open API, we open it up to you to find unique creative ways to incorporate your Zetta workflows. The traditional radio sense is that you buy all that expensive hardware so that everything is fancy going into Zetta. But obviously with COVID in your home studios, we have to kind of do some unique configurations there. You were saying earlier over there, Joe, about how you can have a processor with a mic going into your Zetta system, then you're saving yourself from doing that compression and that EQ. But legally speaking, we have nothing to do with the VST plugins. We want to give you the option to utilize VST plugins. I know that some support departments have their kind of go-tos. I know I was talking with Scott Farr over in Canada. I know he had a lot of his clients have a couple VST plugins they like to use. Me personally, I don't have any in the top of my head, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But again, it's the world is your oyster. Because if you want to, spend a lot of money on a super nice, VST plugin, do it. Absolutely. Me personally, when COVID first hit, I kind of said, hey, listen, I need to get some processing going on here. That's why I bought the DBX. This guy is actually borrowed from our office in White Plains. And so, yeah, so there you go too. So hopefully that answers your question, Joe. It's one of those laissez-faire, whatever you want, we give you the tools to achieve your desired results. That's the idea with plugins. Super last call for questions. Joe, Anthony, I know I'm on about a 15-second delay here, so I want to kind of give you guys a couple seconds. There you go, Anthony. There's one. All right. I'm not going to condone this or not, but Hoser, that's what Anthony likes to do. We were talking, I could see in the chat, Anthony was mentioning some stuff. So maybe that's something you can Google, look into, Joe. It might help you out there too. I know those great resources too. They're in there too. Let's see here. What version, Autotone, what's that? I think that's the question is, yeah, I think I see that. It's the VST plugins are for every version, if I'm not mistaken. That's been there since I think early on in Zetta. Just right click over here, VST plugins. And then these are the ones I have here. But again, if you go to that folder location here, that's going to give you there too. So I think it's been in all versions, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Great. And I'm giving you a little more seconds here for time here. I love the questions. These are phenomenal. Here you go. Just before I forget, of course, RCS archive, rcsworks.com/RCS-live. That's an archive of all of our videos over here. And of course, don't forget the traditional sense. Don't forget to check your backups, your data exchanges, beta testers. We're always in there too as well. I'm not trying to get you paranoid on the backups. I can tell you from firsthand experience, just some users, they get into kind of the groove and they totally forget to take backups. It is your friendly neighborhood Nate reminding you that you should probably take some backups. If not, just check and make sure that they're there and they're working. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I will see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Up. John popped in. Hey, there you go. Hey, John, we're going to wrap this up with you. Thanks for joining in, John. Really appreciate it. We love it. Just so you know, John, we're here every Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time here in the States. And we're answering questions for you, talking about topics in our RCS products, either G Selector or Zetta. I mentioned earlier the archive. If you're new here, check that out. There's some great videos. You guys can always email me if you want to, or reach out to us on social media. If there's a certain topic you want either A, covered, or B, if you already covered it, I can point you in the right direction of a video as well. So thanks for joining us, John. Really appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you next week. And if you have any questions or any workflows you're looking to get answered, worst case scenario, John, ask us. I'll poke you online afterwards and we'll talk about it between you and me. All right? Cool stuff. Have a fantastic weekend. Be healthy, be happy, be safe. Wear your masks, and I'll see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time.